Is anybody watching me read this? Because I think my face is turning red. Hello and welcome to today's video. I don't know what part of me is in frame. This is my first standing up video ever, but today we are going to go through all the books I bought in the month of June. So I've got this huge stack here. I would say I restrained myself fairly well this month. I tried really hard not to buy too many books. I have 11 books that I purchased in the month of June that I'm going to be going through and telling you about. This video is as much for you as it is for me. I am going to try and remember how many books I buy each month so that I can look back on the year and see my purchases. Let's just get into the video. This is going to be a really quick run through. Okay, so I've organized the books I bought in June into 4-ish categories. I've got some fantasy, I've got some nonfiction / classics, I've got an I don't know pile, and then a romance pile, which is the largest pile of the month. So we're going to start with the nonfiction classics. The first book I bought in the month of June is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Olu. I know I pronounced that wrong, I'm so sorry. I talked about this also in my TBR Towers video. I got it from a used bookstore. It looks like a very informative read. It also has some annotations throughout that somebody, a past reader, has graced me with, but I'm really excited to read it. I am so excited to further educate myself on the topic of race and what I can do as a white person to help fight racism. That sounds so like, go team of me, but like, you know, I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to say. I just hope this book teaches me a lot. Yeah, so that's why I bought it. Our second and final book in the nonfiction classics, more informative reads, is The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. First of all, I love this cover. Second of all, I got this in a pretty cool bookstore called Epilogue while I was touring a college. It's like a coffee shop bookstore in Chapel Hill, and I was looking through the books and I wanted to buy something to remind me of my college visit instead of buying like a sweatshirt or whatever. So I decided to buy this book. It's 3 stories about women and the decay of passion. That's all I know. This cover is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous pink book. I love the spine. That's what caught my attention. I was like, oh my god, Simone de Beauvoir. And I felt really like smart buying a classic, you know, on a college campus. So I saw Books with Chloe read it recently in a Read Like Kat Stratford video, and she said she enjoyed it. I think she said it was very much white feminism, like in the 60s. Or am I thinking of The Bell Jar? I don't know. But I think she enjoyed it, and I think it's a good book for me to read. Hopefully it's going to be very informative and very much like a classic. We'll see. It's going to look pretty on my shelves, I can tell you that. Next category we're going to do is a category where I don't know the genre. This is the book in that category. The Last Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. I think it's a romance / literary fiction / I'll read the back. That book. It was about 2 women and they fell in love with each other. And then Lily asked the question that had taken root in her, that was even now unfurling its leaves and demanding to be shown the sun. Have you ever heard of such a thing? Lily can't remember exactly when the question took root, but the answer was clear the moment she and Kath Miller walked under the neon sign of the lesbian bar called the Telegraph Club. America in 1954 is not a safe place for 2 girls to fall in love. Red Scare paranoia threatens everyone, including Chinese Americans like Lily. With deportation looming over her father, Lily and Kath risk everything for love. So it is a love story, but it mingles with the issues of America in 1954 with race and homophobia, all set at the Telegraph Club, a lesbian bar. So I think it's going to be really interesting. It's actually a pretty thick book. It's about 400 pages, but what drew me in was the cover. The cover is gorgeous. I've seen, I think, Noelle talk about this, so I was very intrigued. I guess it does kind of fall into the romance genre, but I think it's more than romance. Next, we're going to be going into some fantasy-ish books. The first one being The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I think this is fantasy-ish. Don't really know much about it. All I know is that people compare it to Knives Out a lot. I know some of my favorite booktubers and people from Book Talk really recommend this book, including my friends in real life, and they all really loved it. When I picked this up at the store, one of the Barnes and Noble ladies was like, I love that book. And I was like, really, I'm so excited to read it. So we had a little conversation about it. That's that. Then the next fantasy-ish book that I've got is Electric Idol by Katie Roberts. This is the second book in the Neon Gods trilogy, I believe, and people say this one isn't as good as the first one, and they like it less than the third. So I think this is a typical middle book in the series where like not much is going on, but I really enjoyed the first book. It is heavily based in romance, but it's got a little sprinkle of fantasy, so that's why I threw it in like the fantasy-ish genre. The first book was a Persephone and Hades retelling. I just gave them a ship name out of nowhere. Persephone and Hades retelling set in New York City, and I really enjoyed it. It was a perfect sprinkle of fantasy in summer, and so I'm excited to read the second book. I read the first book on spring break, and it was super fun to read. It was really spicy, and I was like reading in public on the beach, and I was like, is anybody watching me read this? Because I think my face is turning red. Yeah, I'm super excited. Next, we've got our romance genre, which is our largest genre of book that I bought this month. So let's start with The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I've heard a few people talk about this. I saw this at my used bookstore, and a beautiful, perfect hardcover that has been barely used. And I was like, absolutely gonna pick this up. It was like $3. So I was like, of course. Why would I not? I know it's a romance involving a witch, and I love the cover, so a little spooky romance read for summer. I have to itch my eye, so if it gets all red, I'm so sorry. Next romance book I've got is Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. I've heard a lot about Lynn Painter's books around book talk, and this is one that I saw on the rom-com table. It's a cute little romance that started with a text from The Wrong Number saying, "What are you wearing?" The classic "What are you wearing" text. It's between Olivia Marshall and Colin Beck, and Colin is her brother's best friend. Falling in love, roommate kind of situation, and I'm excited to read in summer. There's a lot of like little sections where it's just them texting and like very different from any romance book I've ever read, I feel like. So hopefully this is a cute little rom-com that I can read on the beach. Pretty short, 300 pages, so I'm excited. This is a book that I already read, but I purchased in the month of June, and it's The Hidden Game by Sally Thorne. I read this probably 2019, it's a really long time ago, I believe. Don't remember much of anything about it. I can't even tell you the characters' names. Lucy and Joshua. They hate each other, so it's an enemies to lovers office romance. I know that. I remember really enjoying it, but I want to reread it, and I wanted the physical copy if I really did enjoy it. It's also going to be a major motion picture soon, so I want to reread it before I watch the movie. I love me some enemies to lovers if it's done correctly, if they're real enemies. So then I've got The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. I've seen a few people talk about this book, but I feel like more people should be, even though I haven't read it yet. First of all, the cover. Gorge. Second, just the vibe, like the vibe of this book. Let me read you the little snippet on the back. A prim and proper lady thief must save her aunt from a crazed pirate and his dangerous, charming henchman in this fantastical historical romance. So it's a historical romance. It's set in the Victorian era about a lady thief named Cecilia Bashing. Whoa, her last name is a mouthful. Cecilia Bassingthwaite. Oh, actually, let me just read you the back, because I can't even articulate this into words how interesting it sounds. I can't get past the last name. Cecilia Bashingthwaite is the ideal Victorian lady. She's also a thief. Like the other members of the Wisteria Society crime sorority, she flies around England drinking tea, blackmailing friends, and acquiring treasure by interesting means. Sure, she has a dark and traumatic past and an overbearing aunt, but all things considered, it's a pleasant existence until the men show up. Ned Lightbourne is a sometime assassin who is smitten with Cecilia from the moment they meet. Unfortunately, that happens to be while he's under direct orders to kill her. His employer, Captain Morvath, who possesses a Gothic abbey bristling with cannons and unbridled hate for the world, intends to rid England of all its presumptuous women, starting with the Wisteria Society. Ned has plans of his own, but both men have made One grave mistake. They underestimate a woman. When Movarth imperils the Wisteria Society, Cecilia is forced to team up with her handsome would-be assassin to save the woman who raised her, hopefully proving once and for all that she's as much of a scoundrel as the rest of them. Wow. This sounds like a fun time. It's a pretty short read, just under 300 pages. The cover is gorgeous. A Victorian thief and a pirate scoundrel man who is sent to kill her. Sounds like my type of book. I just thought it would be super interesting. I've heard of very few people talk about this and I'm excited. Next, we've got The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. I just finished up this trilogy. There's The Kiss Quotient, The Bride Test, and The Heart Principle, all by Helen Huang, all featuring main characters that are neurodivergent or on the autism spectrum, I believe. This one I've already read, but I wanted to reread since I finished the other ones in the series. This is about Stella Lane. She has Asperger's, so she hires a professional, Michael Fan, to help her learn to kiss and help her to learn to be intimate, and they end up falling in love. I remember loving this book, thinking it was amazing. I read it on audio like I did the rest of the series, so I want to reread it physically and relive my experience. This one is also just under 300 pages, $2.99, and the spine is adorable. So I'm so excited to have this in my collection and reread it. Then the last book I've got from the month of June is The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. My sister bought this and she read it and loved it. So like always, she drops all of her books in my room to keep on my shelf because she hates keeping them on her shelf. Unfortunately, she did get a little bit of water damage on this book, but we will live and learn. I told her if she ever borrows my books, she will never ever be able to damage them or she will be buying me a new one. I mean, this isn't that bad. I'm being over dramatic, but like I was a little upset with her because look at this gorgeous book. This cover is everything. This is a book about Meredith Fox who recently lost her sister and she's ready to get back into the world. So she is super excited to participate in the Fox family's annual game of Assassin, which is held at Martha's Vineyard. It just sounds like a fun book about rich people playing assassin and they fall in love. Can you just see me reading this at the beach? Very excited to read. And that's the last of them. These are all the books that I bought in the month of June. Let me put them down because I'm about to drop them all. But thank you for watching this video. I hope you are as excited about these books as I am. Let me know what you thought about any of these, if I should know anything before I start reading them. Follow my Goodreads linked down below to keep updated on my reading. And thank you so much for watching. I had a fun time. I love stand-up videos. I have so much space to move around. Hopefully I'm in framing and I'm not like too back and forth. I don't know. I also like having my bookshelves behind me. So if you enjoyed this setup, let me know as well. Yeah. That's all. I hope you're having a good summer. I'll see you in the next one.